All right, I think we will get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Flora Din. I'm the associate lawyer at the Ramon Sheriff Group, and it is a pleasure to welcome you to our webinar, Business Process Outsourcing, Risks and Opportunities. Just before we begin, can I check that everybody can hear me clearly? I'm seeing some thumbs up, so I think that's a good sign. All right, a few housekeeping notes. Please, we just ask that you ensure all your microphones remain muted and your cameras are switched off throughout the session. We will address questions at the end, so you have the opportunity to either submit your questions through the chat function or to unmute yourself and ask your question and have a little chat with us. Today's session will take a practical look at compliance risks, cost considerations, operational benefits, and workforce strategy within the BPO landscape. I am so pleased to be joined by Ray Ubod, Senior Global HR Operations for the RSG Skills Division. He will share insights on global workforce models and employer obligations for us today. Ray, are you there?
Hello. Hello. So that was my
Hello.
cue. Hi, Flora.
Hello, Ray. Just before we dive into today's topic, maybe you could briefly introduce yourself, tell us what led you to specialize in helping Australian businesses build offshore teams.
Yeah, so thank you for that. So my name is Ray. Hello to everyone, wherever you may be. I hope you're doing well. Well, ironically, Flora, my first job was for a BPO company. So at the onset of my career, I already got the jump start to BPO. Of course, at that time, I didn't understand. It was just a regular job or like a normal job for me. And then as I grew into my career, I started to understand why foreign companies outsource their outsource some roles, outsource some business processes, and right now, fast forward to now, I'm now in like I'm now more intertwined with Australian companies because before it was mainly Western, the US. So I believe when outsourcing started in the late 2000s, it was primarily the Western US started or in a way exploring outsourcing, and then as the years go by, some other regions of the world started to outsource as well. They saw the benefits of it, and now lately I have observed Australian companies now have seen those benefits, and that's what led me to be part in this ecosystem of Australian companies now outsourcing.
That's very interesting, Ray. I think a lot of businesses have heard of the term outsourcing, but they're always probably on the fence and unsure whether it's the right move or not. So, what do you hope that
Right.
attendees today will take away from today's session?
Yeah, well, I'm hoping that we have attendees, like business owners, especially small startup companies, because this is primarily for them, though for them to realize, or perhaps take a look at outsourcing or the BPO process, BPO uh, field, no, in industry, because it would definitely help them a lot in more ways than one, even in maybe in its even some aspect that they don't realize that it would help. Because primarily, when people think of outsourcing, it's really for the cost. And yes, I would agree, but there's more to it. And that's what we're gonna discuss, what I'm gonna be sharing, so that they would understand that beyond the cost, there's still more to consider and more to appreciate.
All right. Well, I'm very excited to dive into the topic, and I'm sure everyone else is as well. Now, Ray, what are
Yep, yep.
some of the biggest challenges then you would say that you're seeing Australian businesses face when it comes to hiring locally?
Yes, yeah. So just before I answer that, so in a way, as you can see here in the slide right now, it's for everyone. So it's a practical strategic view. So so the word there is practical. So let's be practical and consider why outsourcing is something to look at. And to answer your question, yes, as mentioned earlier in my introduction overview, it starts with the cost, right? So if you look at here from a data about 2,000 AUD, Australian dollars, is the average weekly ordinary time earnings for a full-time adult in Australia. That's data up to, last November 2025. So 2,000 AUD. So is that a lot? Is that small? So it really depends. But mostly people would say it's a lot, and that's why that's why cost should always be the primary reason why Australian companies look to offshore is to save, right? And then some other data there is about 29% is being assessed by the Australian occupations that are shortage in skills and professionals. That's coming from the 2025 occupation shortage list in Australia. So 29%, that's a big number. Well, around up to 30%. That's definitely a big number. And then as far as I'd say one of the recipients of outsourcing or Australian company outsourcing is primarily is the Philippines. That's one of the locations. As you can see here, one industry, the Philippine IT BPM export revenue is up $40 billion. And that's roughly about benefiting 1.9 million work in the Philippines. So it's helping as well. Like it's helping the business, Australian businesses. At the same time, it's helping the outsourced employees.
And why do you think that the Philippines has become such a popular destination for Australian businesses, Ray?
Well, primarily it would be the location because as far as time zone is concerned, we're only about 2 hours or 3 hours, depending on the like when DST is in effect. So the 2 to 3 hours, the meaning roughly it's the same time zone. So that definitely helps. And at the same time, the language as well. Most Filipinos like grew up or learned English, the English language at a young age. In fact, lately, like when I see kids right now, it would even seem like it's their first language. So it's
Wow.
so that's not going to be a problem in terms of
Yeah,
communication.
yeah, for sure. Well, when people hear the term BPO, I think many of the businesses or business owners still think of call centers. How do you see or how has outsourcing, in your opinion, evolved over the years?
Yeah, and you are correct because when I started, as I mentioned earlier, I started my career in the BPO. That was a call center, like so. And then when I say call center, it's really as an agent, customer service, tech support. So because it was the first like first like industry being outsourced, so people tend to connect the label. Okay, so like the branding in itself if
Mhm.
stuck, when I say BPO it's call center or BPO it's agent. Okay, but then
Mhm.
as businesses realize, they over the years they really see that oh, it's not just support or customer service that can be outsourced, some other roles as well, which you can see here in the slides right now. But but here's the thing. Here's some nugget that I'd like to add. Because BPO has been labeled as call center, you might have heard. Maybe you can answer me this as well, Flora. You might have
Mhm.
heard terms pop up like RPO, KPO. Have you heard
Yes.
about those terms?
Yes. Of
Okay.
course.
So RPO, that's for those who are not aware, RPO is like recruitment process outsourcing. KPO is knowledge process outsourcing. So why are those terms coming popping up? It's because those businesses or yeah, those businesses wants to differentiate themselves from the BPO because BPO already has been tagged as call center agent. But if you really look at it, it's really just still BPO. Like it's the business process, it's a process in the business as being outsourced. So RPO,
Mhm.
KPO, they're still BPO. So that's I'd like to clear that out for everyone.
All
And
right.
yeah, so to add to that, so as you can see, as I mentioned, it evolved to a lot of other roles. So you can see even in administration, finance support, HR recruitment as RPO, customer care, legal admin support, marketing and IT. A lot of roles now have been outsourced because of so BPO has evolved nowadays.
Mhm. And you've got a key question there. So I would probably ask
Right.
you, how does a business owner determine whether a particular role can be performed remotely then?
Yes, so the answer to that would be the key question. As you can see, the question would be, can it be done remotely? So obviously, if it can be done remotely, then it can be outsourced. So that's really the primary question to ask first. When would someone explore outsourcing, or is this role can be outsourced? So that's really it. Can it be done? Can the task be done remotely?
Okay. And what are some of the biggest advantages that you've seen then that businesses gain from the outsourcing?
Right. So for the opportunities now, so this is now the value as to why in the first place Western companies, US companies started or exploring, and then other regions followed. So as you can see, primarily the main opportunity would be cost efficiency. I mean, it's again as it's not to sugarcoat or anything. That's really the primary reason. It's really cost efficiency, lowering operating costs while preserving capacity. Because again, for business owners, especially starting businesses, funds is very critical. Because again, in other data, when people start businesses, the lifespan is usually it uh, it close or it stop operation after 1 year, 2 years. If you even reach 3 years, 5 years, that's already like a big celebration for someone who started a business. So funds is really critical in the beginning, and that is why outsourcing some roles would be beneficial to begin with. So cost efficiency. Now, at the same time, again, beyond cost efficiency, you can also see there faster hiring because um, because you can now have access to a lot of candidates, not just limited to your location of your business. So it's the fact that we have the internet, the World Wide Web, we have access to everyone. Like the bottom line is we have access to everyone. So that's so it hastens the hiring process. And scalability, so add support as the business grows. So it goes hand in hand with cost efficiency because you wouldn't want to scale as well very fast, overextending yourself in terms of funding because that might be a path to the demise of a business. So at least you get to scale properly and efficiency. Extended capacity, more coverage across time zone. Yeah, and the good thing about this one, extended capacity, you have the scenario where you can even have a support to your business 24 hours because again, because of the time zones, you can hire people opposite to your time zone to still support the business. So the good thing there is your business never stops, and that's what we want because again with the globalization through the internet, the world never stops. So no, right now even I lack some sleep because I'm awake in the evening. So yeah, a management focus. This one is something that most business owners uh, tend to overlook or maybe forget as they start their businesses. The the focus, so management for owners leaders spend less time on repeatable admin because how can uh, how can they grow the business if they're doing the clerical stuff? So
Mhm.
definitely one of the main opportunity of outsourcing is they now can focus on what is important, which is to grow and expand the business. And yes, lastly would be talent access. So specialized support that may be difficult or costly locally. So you now have more access. Like you have more access to specialized individual, highly skilled individuals, and so it's like um, look at it this way: if you say that there's a person expert in IT in Australia, does that mean there's no equivalent person highly skilled or as highly skilled or even like uh more highly skilled uh, from the Philippines? So if your answer is yes, then that's something that you can consider because again, if you get the same talent, if you get the same skills, may it be as the same or close to the same of the skill that you're finding, and it's more cost efficient, then definitely that would help in your operations.
Mhm. So sounds like lots of advantages for the BPO then, right? Now, I know you said that you worked for a US company before, your first company that you worked for. But could you share any other examples where, outsourcing actually allowed an SME to grow either faster or maybe operate more efficiently?
Yes, so yeah, I can definitely think of one. There was one company that U.S. company that uh, I worked for and helped in their outsourcing because when I got in, it was about to expand, and obviously since and here's the thing: when actually it was already expanding, by the way. So let me correct you on that. It was already expanding, and the bad thing is that the unfortunate thing happened that the business when it scaled so fast, it somehow because it was not structured well, it somehow reached to a point where it was no longer able to like deliver good results, good service. So the sales went down, and
Mm,
then and because of that, the fundings were compromised. And at least because the since it was outsourced, it was designed in a way that it was like temporary project based outsourcing. So in terms of adjusting the scalability, it didn't it didn't what's this? It did not. It was not complicated enough to make that adjustment, and because of outsourcing, and it was very clear from the start in terms of the support of the role and the task. And so once I was able to see the problem, and so we made some structure. I created some SOPs and everything, and then once we scaled again, it was now properly done. And the good thing is it definitely was able to sustain the growth as the months and years go by. And I believe right now it's still doing well, and I'm happy for that.
wow, that's great. Yeah. It's just like what you mentioned earlier, the admin stuff, if you can outsource that, then you have the owners and the leaders they can spend more time on growth strategy. So that's great. Now, which
Yes.
of these benefits on your slides that you see tends to make the biggest impact for SMEs?
For SMEs, definitely. Well, apart from the cost, I would pinpoint the management focus because again, if business owners, they tend to lose sight of why they started the business in the first place because they got stuck with the clerical task.
Yeah. Right. So can you expand a little bit on that, looking at or viewing outsourcing as a growth strategy rather than just a cost strategy?
Yeah, because when people think of growth, somehow they miss the part that as you grow, you also grow in manpower, you also grow in people, and we all know people, manpower resource is not so easy to handle. So you can't just simply hire or add 5, 10 people and expect them to do well. So just because you're thinking that you're thinking that the business now expanding, then we need more people, because you cannot expand without people.
Mhm.
That's really the bottom line there. You cannot expand with people. You need to leverage. Business owners need to leverage their time, their effort, and that's where outsourcing comes in.
All right. And maybe you can expand a little bit on some of the biggest mind shift or mindset shift that business owners need to make before outsourcing.
Yes. So here, as you can see in this slide, so beyond the cost now, it's more of the strategic approach, the strategic perspective. So growth strategy. So number one, as I've mentioned, it's freeing up leadership time, which is very important, so that the business owners, the senior leadership, can focus on what matters, which is growing and expanding the business. And number two, reducing bottlenecks. Because again, if everything has to be approved by senior leadership or the owner, and there's about like 20, 30 things that
Mhm.
he needs to attend to, that's a lot of bottlenecks there. That's a lot of time wasted. So at least that reduces the bottlenecks there. Uh, yeah, which would lead to number three, increased execution speed. So as you are as business owners able to leverage their time to people that they have seen that are trustworthy, that they can trust, then it definitely increases the speed. And of course, building capacity. So as mentioned, as you grow, you need manpower to grow to support the growth. So meaning the proportion or the ratio would always be sufficient to support the growth at any point in time. So as you can see there, bottom line, outsourcing works best when it supports a deliberate operating model. So you don't just outsource without any plans. So there should be a plan, there should be a strategy.
Right. It's all about the strategy. And for
Yeah.
businesses considering outsourcing for the first time, now which roles would you say, Ray, you would recommend them start with?
Which roles? So, common roles, again, going back to the first question, can it be done remotely? So, if it's yes, then these are some of the common roles that can be outsourced in a business. And these are when I say common, these are applicable to all businesses. Like, for example, administration, virtual assistant, VA data entry, all companies, all types of industries, all types of lines of businesses, they need this. All right. They need these people, data entry, executive assistant, virtual assistant. So that alone, an HR recruitment, recruiter, HR coordinator, you need someone to outsource, to onboard new people. Because again, as business owner, you should not be doing that. And at the same time, finance, customer support, professional technical support. So document processing, marketing assistant, help the support. Every As long as again, if they can be done at home in a computer, maybe laptop, PC, um, definitely those are something to be considered that you should outsource.
Mhm. So
So
then
here you can see the bottom line. You start with tasks that have clear input, outputs, and quality standards. So the keyword there is clear. So you don't, as mentioned earlier, you don't just outsource without any plans.
right. So then I would assume it would be the same vice versa. If there are any roles that you can't do remotely, you probably shouldn't outsource that right away. Right, Ray?
Yes, of course. That's correct. There are roles, like one role that always pops in my mind that cannot be outsourced is like security. Like, how can you outsource security when they have to be there? They have to be at the location. And and
Yeah.
and and I guess just to add some like a personal, I would say, sentiments. I'm not really a fan, Flora, of people like openly or like overly glorifying remote work because they
Mm.
tend to alienate those roles that cannot be done remotely. And
Yeah.
we have to be fair and understanding. So and I that's what I want people to like to strike a balance. That not all
Mhm.
roles can be outsourced. So we shouldn't be promoting like overly like, oh, job should be outsourced, jobs should be done remotely, jobs should be done at home. Not all jobs can be done at home. Not all jobs can be done remotely.
Yeah. And that speaks to strategy as well, Ray, right? To strike a balance between the two and
Yes.
understanding what can be done remotely and what can't. Well, now we know
Yeah.
all of
That's
the advantages of BPOs. What about the risks then, Ray? Like, what are some of the most common concerns that clients raise before deciding to outsource?
yes. So the beauty of life in general, when there's good, there's always bad. Okay, so when there's
Mhm.
opportunities, there's also risks, and the risks are real, as you can read there. So the risks are real. Okay, so credible outsourcing advice must acknowledge the downside. So business owners as well should not overlook the downside because they might be lurking just on the side, and they so blinded by it, and then they one day they will be surprised that it became a big problem to them. All right, so as you can see there, some of the risks: poor quality output. Okay, so obviously when I say poor quality output, this connects to not being clear with the role, with the expectations, uh, and a weak supervision accountability. And for me, this is very practical because um, outsourcing or remote thing, the role, you don't see that person. Like, when you were working on site, if I, as I can remember when I started my career, it was all on site. If you see a colleague not working well or sleeping, you just go to the cubicle and you slap them. Okay. Right, anyway, just joking. So yeah, I mean, you can do all those stuff when you're on site. You can supervise them from afar. You can look at them, like if they're doing any work or not. But in remote, in outsourcing, you don't. So that's why weak supervision accountability, you have to acknowledge that risk and be able to find a remedy to that. Okay, so the supervision part, and because again, it's because it's not within your site. Data privacy and exposure. So definitely, because the fact you're allowing access to the information of the company, so you have to put in some parameters or security measures as to the limitations that you're sharing to the outsourced staff. And then communication delays. So this would tie up with the supervision part because again, it's not you're not together with the person, and so the only way for you to know how they're doing is to communicate, and that's where we rely on the internet. So if the internet is slow, if the internet, or worse, there's no internet, then this wouldn't work. Okay, so the communication won't be even in delay. There will be no communication. So that's part of the risk. So that's something to consider as well when you outsource. So you need to remedy how to address communication delays in terms of, let's say, power outages, in terms of their internet connection, availability and all. So speed and all, yes. And role mismatch, yeah, that would tie up with quality. So meaning you have to be clear, no? As mentioned earlier, you have to be clear with the role that you're trying to outsource. And here, over reliance on cheap labor. Now, I did mention the primary reason or the primary opportunity is cost, right? But at the same time, uh, if you're just only thinking about getting cheap labor, remember, cheap what's this? Uh, Paying cheap, you get cheap results. Okay, so you have to put a balance in that as well. So business owner have to. You don't just think that, okay, I think this person will already be good with this package, with this compensation, and then after a month or two, you're not satisfied with the work, and then you wonder why. That's why, because you were only thinking about cheap labor. So that's a problem as well. And see here, as you can see here, but the bottom line there is outsourcing fails when risk is ignored at the design stage, meaning at the beginning. So again, remember, it should be a strategy. There should be a plan, and the risk must be acknowledged.
Mhm. And now, if we're talking about, like why outsourcing fails, what do you think some of the common mistakes businesses make when onboarding maybe their first offshore employee?
Yeah. So yeah, here we hear also some horror stories about why outsourcing fails. No? So these are some of it. So most failures do not start offshore; they start before hiring. So as when before hiring, that would meaning not being clear with the role, not being clear with the standard, with the SOPs. So you see, the business hires a person before defining the work, the standard, the process, the accountability. So, I mean, these should be done first before hiring. Defining the work, setting the standards, setting the process, and the accountability rhythm. They should be established first before hiring. Because you can see their unclear role, then, like the worker receives tasks, but not through ownership. They can always just pass on the blame because it's unclear to them. Okay, and then we should all be mindful because people, if they commit a mistake, their first reaction should be will be on the defensive side. Passing no, well, obviously passing on the blame, not my fault. The how is it my fault? Something like that. So it's very so unclear role. That's one of the things that why people fail. Then same that ties in with no KPIs, so no expectation, no standard, no targets. So they can always say, "Oh, well, how come I failed when I don't even know what I'm looking for, what I'm don't even know what I'm aiming for, right?" So there should be a target. So we cannot just be blind and throwing arrows anywhere and hoping it hits the bullseye. No documented process. So documentation is very important because whenever things gets disaligned, then we have that document to go back and realign. So it should be documented. Okay, the process should be documented, and of course, as it is being documented, then there should be quality control because that would be also one of the reasons to fail. No quality control, no one checking, no one auditing. Okay. Um, so that's very important as well. Errors are discovered only after they affect clients. And this is what we don't want to happen in businesses. We don't want it to have an impact on the clients because again, businesses rely on customers, rely on clients. So if there are no customers, there are no clients, then there's no business. So they have to be careful on this one. Quality control. So these four alone would be the reason why outsourcing fails. And as you can see there, the solution is not more monitoring, the solution is better structure.
Mhm. And if a business is already struggling with outsourcing or maybe some of these key reasons for failing that you've mentioned, what are some of the first things that they should probably review or restructure then, right?
Yeah, so this one, we go back to these lines here. Define the work, define the role, what's the standard, okay, set the standard, what's the process, and then the accountability at each step of the process. So they should go back, business owners should go back to this one, and then once this has been established, then they realign expectations with their current outsourced staff if they have already been outsourcing and there's no structure, or there's no clarity. So yeah, it can still be remedied, and in fact I would even go as to say the outsourced staff would appreciate because everything's clear now to them. They know now what to do, and that's what we want for businesses, is everything should be clear to everyone.
Mhm. All right. And you mentioned earlier regarding the design stage. Can you walk us through the outsourcing readiness framework and maybe explain why each step is so crucial?
Yes. So yeah. So here you can now see the steps. So you can do this again. You can do this. Oh well, this should be done before hiring. But if, as you mentioned earlier in your question, if they have already started and somehow it's not working, they can still remedy it by following this framework. So again, number one would be defining everything: the role, the scope, the outputs, the limits, the authority limits of the role. And then after once you have defined those, you put it into writing. You document them. Set SOPs, set templates, set decision path. As much as possible, it would greatly help if there are, let's just say, documents that are repetitive, it should be a template so that it reduces time to think and even and create and finish the document. So that's why it is very important to document SOPs, templates, and decision paths. And after that, then they need to measure it. We need to measure it in terms of how the quality, how fast, the accuracy, and even the responsiveness in as they go about with the doing the task. So everything should be measurable because you wouldn't be able to correct or improve if you don't have any starting point. So tasks should be measured. And then lastly, not lastly, the second to the last would be communicate. Now, of course, once you have defined, you have a document, you now have measures to it. If you don't communicate it to the staff, then what's the point of even doing it in the first place? So you communicate it, reporting and escalation paths so that everything would be aligned, everything is clear from both sides, and definitely reduces bumps or obstacles along the way. And lastly, the control part. So again, the fact that this is outsourced, so parameters must be set in terms of the access and privacy review, and even the compliance part must be considered as well. So as you can see there, bottom line, a remote worker without structure becomes a risk. Okay, but inside a clear system, they become an asset. And I'm seeing companies um, that has this clear system, and definitely they have a lot of assets.
Yeah, wow, that's a very good quote there to remember, right? Because I guess how you design the process before you start hiring or before you start outsourcing will determine whether the employee becomes a risk or becomes an asset to the business.
Right.
And
So the first to
many,
blame would be the owner.
for sure, it would be. Now, many providers simply, I guess, offer just staff, but you emphasize choosing, I guess, the right staff or the right partner. What should businesses look for when evaluating a BPO provider?
Yeah. So definitely, there in everything there are also bad apples. So we need to find the good apples. So the safer way to outsource, as you can see there, is partner plus governance. So a strong BPO partner should not simply provide people. So again, it's not just simply providing people and then that's it. So as we have learned earlier, like we need structure, we need plans, we need everything should be clear. So it should not just stop by just providing people. So so furthermore, they should help build a managed offshore capability with recruitment discipline, HR structure, performance routine, and compliance awareness. So on the right side, you can see there what's the good partner to outsource, or what a good company to outsource to partner with for your outsourced staff. So recruitment fit, they should that outsourced company, that BPO should know how to find the right skill plus the right work style. And this is very critical because again, it shouldn't just be simply providing people. There are a
Mhm.
lot to consider, especially in the recruitment fit part. Remember, you're outsourcing to another country. We should be mindful of the differences in each country, in each nationality, the culture, how they behave, how the expectation, the habits. Those things are to be considered, and those are what a BPO company uh, should be like in a way a master for. In fact, for me, I even look at it as like the secret sauce. That's the secret sauce. People can just simply hire, especially if you like the person. If you see a good-looking person, pleasing personality, people will simply hire. They're not thinking about anything else, and then later on they will have problems. So recruitment is very important. It's not just it goes beyond the physical stuff. You look at the skill, the culture, the habits of that wherever that person is coming from. And of course you must have a good HR support, onboarding policies, performance management, because that's the expertise of that role or the HR support. That's why we have RPOs, as I mentioned earlier, recruitment for outsourcing. You have RPOs, which is still a BPO, by the way. Operating rhythm, reporting, cadence, escalation, very open, very sensitive to the needs of the SMEs, of the business owners. Because I have um because the good thing here, the how it should be is a good BPO partner should be able to cater to the needs of the SMEs, the business owners, because again, those are not their expertise. So I have we have this one we have this one uh, we have this one client or our partner, that it's their first time to outsource a role, a staff. And when I sat down with them, they really don't have any idea. So I was asking all this like structure, these details, defining everything, and the answers are really vague. But it's not that it's their fault. It's just that because they don't have any idea. Okay, so the good thing there is we were able to help them. We were able to adjust to their needs, and we were able to address what they want. And fast forward, we were able to get the right person, fits perfectly well with their culture, and I believe they are very happy about it. And at the same time, the staff is very, very happy as well. So it goes both ways. And then to continue, so quality control, so review audit documentation. So again, definitely everything should be reviewed. The BPO partner should be able to do some review and audits, because again, we need to improve as well along the way, especially with all the advances of technology in terms of the tools that we're doing. We need to be constantly improving the process. And then lastly, the compliance awareness, data privacy access and limits. So determining all these compliances, privacy. So because again, some companies are not mindful. They just want I just need someone to do this, and so that I can expand. Okay, so they don't even think about the compliance awareness, and then that's where a good BPO partner comes in. They made them aware about the parameters and the limitations. So it's really that's why if you look at it in the headline, the word is partner. It's not just a mere client, but really a partner, because we are partnering with these companies for them to grow and expand.
Mhm. Of course, and you want to select basically the right person to, contribute to the long-term success of your business as well. So, definitely selecting the
Yeah.
right partner is an important, crucial point in the process. All right, maybe
Yes.
you can now summarize some of the key takeaways, Ray, and emphasize
Yeah.
one main message that you want the attendees today to remember.
Yes, so I hope everyone up to this point, have learned a lot about outsourcing, even outsourcing in general. But although right now we're primarily focusing on Australian businesses, but outsourcing in general, I hope everyone's learning a lot. And to sum up everything, so here are key takeaways that we have discussed so far. So number one, BPO is a strategic tool. So the word there is strategy. Okay. So it should support business outcomes, not merely reducing payroll costs. So again, primarily it's because of the pay, but it should not stop there. Okay, it should be able to support business outcomes. Okay? You don't just simply outsource for the sake of outsourcing. If it doesn't help the business outcome or the business bottom line, then why outsource in the first place, right? Second, the opportunity is real. So savings, scale, speed, capacity, and access to talent are legitimate advantages. Definitely these are true. The fact that the BPO has expanded to practically all regions of the world, not just with the Western side, the US side. Right now, I've seen a lot of other regions, European companies have outsourced as well. Now Australian. So the opportunity is really there because they wouldn't follow the other regions if it's not working. At the same time, the risks are also real. Okay, quality, privacy, communication, accountability, risk must be managed deliberately. And again, what I can simply say to this, whenever there is good, there is always bad. So it's not good to neglect the bad. Okay, so risks are also real. It must be acknowledged in the first place. All right. And then lastly, success depends on structure. So it's not just merely providing people, but it should have a good and proper structure. Clear roles, documented processes, KPIs, governance, and the right partner makes the difference. So even though even though you have all of this, and if you don't partner with the right company, it will still be a failure. Okay, so it still matters. Again, there are well, I mean, as much as we want everything to be like good, there will always be bad apples. Okay, in everything. All right. So you have to be particular with what's it? Particular with not eating the bad apples. Now, lastly, so outsourced with intention. So this is the messaging here. Outsourced with intention, managed with structure, and scale with confidence.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Wow. Ray, thank you so much for sharing your insights today. Well, that concludes the presentation, but we'll just open it now to the floor. And Ray, hopefully you can ask some questions from our audience here. So everyone who's here, if you have a question, please type it into the chat, or you can raise your hand and unmute yourself. We're happy to have a chat with you as well. We've got a couple questions coming already, Ray. The first one is, what is the
Oh, wait.
turnover rates compared to local hires?
Turnover rate. Okay. Turnover rate. Um, well, one factor of turnover is being clear. So if it's not clear, as we have discussed, it will lead to confusion. It would lead to stress, unnecessary stress, and in fact, that would be one of the primary reasons that staff as well resigns or leaves the company. Um, Another factor to consider in terms of turnover would be compensation. As earlier we said, if the focus is on just overly reliant on cheap labor, and they find another company offering a good substantial package, then they leave. So for me, when people ask about turnover rate, uh, whether as a business owner, you shouldn't be affected in terms of, especially if you read turnover, like very high turnover rate, attrition rates, because if you are paying them well, everything is clear, you wouldn't have even no turnover attritions. So that's how I would answer that question in terms of turnover. So it's really more of how you look at it for the business owners.
All right. And we have two questions about, the Privacy Act and data breach. So maybe you can just expand a little bit on that, Ray, just about what businesses need to do when their customer data is being handled offshore.
Yeah. So this is where the parameters comes in, the access comes in, because remember, well, we have these tools now, obviously, to be able to operate a business and having outsourced staff, having remote workers. So we have these tools, and these tools, they have already considered the data privacy aspect, the access aspect. So you should be able to have someone who would be like, in a way, an expert or skillful in those tools, to use those tools properly, to set parameters, to set limitations to the access. Okay, so those are there. Um, uh, um, because again, because the fact that it is a risk, the companies that are making the tools that we're using as we work, they have already included that as well, and we just need to find them, we have and use them.
Mhm. All right. And I think we have one last question. Which parts of a business actually make sense to outsource, and which ones are better kept in-house?
In-house. Yeah. So we go back to the question, can it be done remotely? So that should be
Mm.
the first question. Um, but yeah, and if the answer is yes, then you explore outsourcing. As examples earlier, virtual assistants, executive assistants, HR, finance support, tech support, IT support. So if it can be done remotely, that should always be your first question. Then you explore outsource. If it not, like for example, as I have said earlier, let's say a security. If you think of it outsourcing, think of a scenario then when someone goes to that location and um, you can't expect someone to be able to attend to that um, a guest or customer. And here's the thing. While I'm answering that question, because of that, have you noticed, Flora, that um, in fast food,
Mm.
some companies already outsourcing the ones taking your orders?
Oh, wow.
Have you
Did
seen
you
that?
I've not noticed
Yeah.
that yet. No.
At first, I really thought those they should be in person, like people should be taking your order in person. But when I saw that, for me, I took a step back and then look at obviously understand the business side why they chose that route. It makes
Wow.
sense because you're just simply taking the order. So you
Yes.
once you take that order, you send it to the one cooking the food. So obviously the one cooking the food cannot be outsourced, but the ones taking the orders can. So yeah, it made sense. So that's really that's so it boils down again to the question, can it be done remotely?
Mhm. Wow. Very creative way to see if something can be done remotely, right? That's interesting.
Yeah, right. I was
Right.
surprised as well.
Yeah. It seems like those are all our questions that we've received in the chat. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for spending part of your day with us today. We hope the conversation gave you some practical insights into how BPO fits into real world compliance, cost management, and workforce planning. I also want to say thank you so much to you, Ray. Your perspective on global HR operations and workforce strategy that you mentioned added so much depth to the session. And we really appreciate you sharing your expertise and practical examples with all of us. Now, one last question, Ray, just before you go. If attendees want to learn more about RSG skills or get in touch, how can we do that?
Yeah, so they can reach out to us directly. You can email us at hr@rhglaw.com.au.
Okay, great, perfect. Thank you so much, Ray. Thank you so much,
And
everyone.
of course,
And
we also have our socials, Laura. Sorry, for everyone, we also have our social. We're present in LinkedIn and Facebook. So just search Requirement Share Group Skills or RSG Skills. You can also message us there.
great. All right.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much, Ray. Thank you so much to everyone attending, and we hope you have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Hope you learned a lot.